Awesome. All right. Well, I will get started. We're recording the session today, so if you miss anything or want to rewatch it or share it with any of your colleagues, then you're of course more than welcome to do so. My name is Rhiannon Boyd. I'm the General Manager for ACTS, and I'm here today to welcome and introduce our webinar, which is Shining Stars: Lessons from Australia's First Rated Institutions. So before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the custodians, the traditional owners of the lands we all respectively join from today. So I join you myself from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, which represent the 5 language groups that make up much of central Victoria and Melbourne. So I welcome anybody to pay their respects to the lands from which they're joining on today, either in the chat, or I welcome our presenters to do the same, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging from all the lands respectively, and any First Nations people that are joining on the call today. So we're here today to talk about STARS as the sustainability tracking and rating system that is starting to gain traction in our region. STARS is a program of ASHE, so that's our sister organisation in the US, and it is a very popular tool to be used in Northern American institutions. Thousands of organisations have used STARS to date, but it's a relatively new tool for us in the Australasian region. So we've had a partnership with ASHE for many, many years, but about 3 years ago, we sort of collaborated a bit more to really try and bring STARS to our region and our institutions. And part of that is a really unique partnership that we have with ASHE, which allows us to support a cohort of institutions that are implementing STARS. So I've got this slide up on the screen, which goes back to our 2019 conference in Dunedin in New Zealand. It was the last time we had an in-person ACTS conference a couple of years ago, before the world changed quite dramatically. And this was the first group of people working on STARS and working towards the STARS rating. So at that time, very new. We have now got the University of Tasmania and of course the University of Queensland that have submitted and received the very first STARS ratings, and University of Sydney have just submitted very shortly. So we, as part of the cohort group there are lots of lessons that are coming out of the group around the process itself of going through to get a rating, as well as lessons and opportunities that have come as a result. So we talk quite regularly in the cohort meetings about this, and why we're running this webinar today is just to share some of those lessons with you, because there's some really fantastic opportunities and we'd love more people to take advantage of what's happening through the STARS program. So that's enough waffle from me. Basically, I'm going to be handing it over to our presenters that will be sharing their experiences through STARS. So we've got Corey Peterson from the University of Tasmania, the Associate Director of Sustainability at UTAS, Carmen Primo Perez, who's the Senior Sustainability Officer from the University of Tasmania, got Suzanne Davis, who's the Environmental and Sustainability Program Officer from the University of Queensland, and Zoe Morrison, who's the Strategy Advisor at the University of Sydney. So they've very kindly given us their time today to talk through their experiences with STARS. So each presenter is going to talk for a little bit and present a case study, and then we will have Q&A at the end of everybody's sharing. So if you've got any questions, please do submit them through the Q&A function. I'll also keep an eye on the chat as we go through, and we will get to those questions at the end of the presentations. So I think that's it from me. I'm now going to stop sharing my screen, if I can get Zoom to collaborate with me. There we go. And I'm going to pass over to Carmen, who's going to do a bit of an introduction as to what STARS actually is to get us going today. So thank you, and over to you, Carmen.
Thanks, Rhi. I'm gonna share now my screen, and hopefully that will go well. Can you see the presentation? Excellent. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So as Rhi said, I'm Senior Sustainability Officer at the University of Tasmania, and I was in charge of putting together our first STARS report that we submitted last year. I got heavily involved with the stars, and it's a tool that I really like. And with all my enthusiasm, I also joined the International Steering Committee that's preparing the version 3 of stars. And we are working through the credits, and I'm trying to make it a bit more Australasian to make life easier for us. So I'm gonna start talking a bit about what stars is for those who are not familiar with it. So bear with me while we go through this hopefully brief overview. So STARS is a sustainability tracking assessment and rating system. Is voluntary and self-reported reporting framework and rating, and it can be used as a guide for advancing sustainability in the higher education sector. It's a common standard of measurement for sustainability progress. I like this framework especially because it's a mix of qualitative and quantitative data, and it's very specific in what's required. And it's a tool that promotes a comprehensive understanding of sustainability, doesn't focus only on environmental sustainability, but also brings together social, economic, and environmental dimensions of it. How is STARS different to other tools that are out there? Well, it is open to any institution of higher education, and they are also now opening to other educational organizations as well. It offers positive recognition, which I think it is important to focus on the positive and advances sustainability. It is the most transparent tool that I've dealt with, and the University of Tasmania has used a few in the past. And not only because of the very specific requirements in the technical manual that they provide, but also because all the reports and all the information in the reports are open to the public. Not only the rating, but everything is publicly available to everybody. It's being created by the higher education community for higher education, and it promotes collaboration rather than competition. And it does this in many ways, focusing on sharing sustainability information, as I said, through the public reports, but also through the peer review process. And I will talk a bit more about this later when I talk about what UTAS has been doing. And the international STARS community, where people that's participating in STARS can ask questions, share initiatives, and it's been a pretty useful tool for all of us in the panel. What are the benefits of participating in STARS? I just a list there of a few of them. It can be used to create a baseline for continuous improvement. So assessing where you are at, identify gaps, and try to progress from there. It's really useful to generate new ideas. It provides you kind of a checklist of things that you could do and are considered best practice, but also by sharing information with others, you get new ideas of what you could do, and not only checking the different points in the list, but also going beyond that, which I think is also really important. It's a great way to engage with your community, both during the preparation of the report. You reach out to students, staff, and the broader community to gather all the information, but also when communicating the results as well. It can inform strategic planning and budgeting. So it's a great way to, as I said, identify gaps, things that you could be doing, prioritized, and also can be used as a KPI. Integrate sustainability into the curriculum is another potential benefits, and there is a whole section around academic credits. Make a real progress towards sustainability, as I said, from the baseline. Gain international recognition. Currently, there are around 40 or 45 countries participating. more than 1,000 universities, so it's definitely shared worldwide. And you are a part of a global community of star institutions, as I said, in different ways, but the community online being an important one. This is a bit focused on how we use or intend to use the STARS report, but it could apply to all higher education institutions. It underpins an integrated sustainability report, so it will be the basis for a comprehensive report that you can then share with your community. Support submissions under the THE impact ranking. The THE impact ranking is partly based on STARS, so there is a fair amount of overlap there. Provides a basis for marketing and communication activities in many various different ways, and supports University Council reporting. And to finish the overview with the STARS, don't focused on the numbers here, but it's just to show how STARS is structured. So it has 5 main sections. A preface that gathers institutional data, mainly an academic section, engagement, operations, and planning and administration. And there are different subcategories under that, and there are a number of credits under each subcategory, and the scoring varies between credits, subcategories, and categories. And on top of this, there is a section for innovation credits, and they provide a list of credits that you could address, or you can create your own if you've done something that goes above and beyond what's in the other credits, and you get bonus points for that. I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna pass it to Cory to start talking about the University of Tasmania's experience.
Thanks for that, Carmen. We'll just go on to the next slide. So the University of Tasmania, Carmen will talk about some of the challenges and opportunities of actually preparing a STARS report on what we went through or are going through in our second reporting now. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why we chose STARS and how we're using it to advance our sustainability agenda at the University of Tasmania. So since 2010, what you're seeing on the screen is essentially a maturity scale as you progress along and embed sustainability and become a sustainable institution. There's certain things that happen on that path, and STARS maps directly to those things. So you start early on, it's environmental management, then it becomes environmental sustainability focused, and then it gets a bit more of a holistic understanding, and then it's embedded into what that university is about or the organization. And STARS reflects all those on the way through. So this is just to show you that in 2020, we submitted our first report and received a silver rating. And what that did was it showed that we had some successes, but we had a long way to go to achieve our aspirational target, which is what I was calling it, of being a platinum institution by 2024. Our Vice Chancellor and our Chief Operating Officer now say it is a firm target, that we will achieve that. And considering there's only, I think, still only 11 out of the 1,100 or so that use the system that have achieved platinum, we've set ourselves quite a goal. Go on to the next slide. Carmen, thanks. So as Carmen said, some of the benefits of it are the fact that it really does cover off on everything. It's a very holistic tool. And so we were able to use it. We took our first report and we said, okay, what's the story this is telling us? So what you'll see here on the screen is a graph that in red are the total points available per subcategory. Curriculum, for example, has 8 credits within that. And then what we've shown here is where we've achieved platinum level activity and gold level activity. So we could celebrate successes in almost every area so that we could bring people along and say, hey, we acknowledge you're doing some amazing things, but there's some gaps. So we used it as a gap analysis and where we could focus some additional efforts. And then I've circled a few things there. So within, curriculum and research, there's quite a bit that we could still do. And that was able to, go to them specifically with those sections of the STARS manual and say, okay, these are the things we'd like to work on in this time frame. And it was very clear what we were trying to achieve because we were able to show them where they had achieved already, because we've had a sustainability focus for some time. Operationally is that middle oval. We have a long way to go in there. We've done a few good things, but there's a lot more we can do. From a lot of that is environmental sustainability. And then this investment in finance, I can say we're going to achieve almost all the credits on our next submission, which is pretty good. But it's about being a gap analysis tool as well as a celebratory tool. Next slide. So what it has enabled us to do, I think it's a 385-page technical manual with the credits broken out anywhere from 3 to 6 pages per credit, and it's very clear what needs to happen in there to achieve the point. And of course, you're not going for points; you're going to achieve sustainability outcomes for your university. So you need to assess whether that matters to your institution to be sustainable or not. So we were able to go through and say, okay, we've got a business as usual, which got us that stars rating. How do we actually achieve that with this gold by early 2022, which means you need to have over 65% of the points. So we identified those categories and stars, created a strategy around that. So we want to be a leader in sustainability governance and implementation, for example, or sustainability education and research. And then we went out and said, okay, we need to co-design some initiatives. And so you find the right people in the right area, procurement, for example. And we went to them and said, okay, we want to try to achieve these credits. We think they're doable. Do you think they're doable? Let's co-design an initiative with milestones. And then we put that all into our internal project management system at the university, which means anybody at a manager level and above can go in and see that system and see how we're going. So we keep adding more and more initiatives, which is what on the left there is. You got business as usual plus the various tranches that we keep adding in order to achieve that gold, or hope to achieve that gold level early next year. And then we just had those initiatives, and it goes into that system, and people get automated reminders that they have milestones to address, et cetera, et cetera. And then we contact them as well and make sure that they feel enabled and supported. So next slide. And this was supposed to be deleted slide. Move on. And over to you, Carmen.
That's all right. Okay, so just briefly going through a few of the challenges, and then I will end with some recommendations if you are going through the STARS reporting process or want to go thinking about it. So challenges that we encountered for the first reporting that might not be necessarily an issue for the second one, were getting enough resources, both in terms of people and time for those people to get the first report together, acknowledging that the first report is probably the hardest and that hopefully it will be easier from now on. So yeah, that was a bit of a challenge. The good thing is that there are no deadlines with the STARS. You go at your own pace, and when you are ready, you're ready and you submit. So that's a plus. Finding the right sources of information for a bunch of credits that cover absolutely everything sustainability in the university. So there was a bit of time spent trying to find the right person to give you the right information. Some of the data might not be readily available just yet. So this was also a prompt for us to trying to get better data in some areas that we didn't have the information that we needed to submit. Also keeping in mind that when you submit your report, it's not compulsory to address all the credits. So if for some credits you don't have the information, you can still submit the report. That's not an issue either. And translating some of the credits to the Australasian context. And this goes from the vocabulary used to the standards provided as examples. But as I said before, I'm in the steering committee that's looking at version 3 and trying to address that issue, and also acknowledging that the ASHE staff is very flexible, and they are also open to you suggesting new standards or processes that apply to our region, and they incorporate that, not in the technical manual just yet because that's a fixed document, but on the website, they definitely update that information as soon as we request it and they approve it. So very helpful, I have to say. And now I'm stuck again here. So some recommendations from my side. Don't let the size of the technical manual scare you. That's the first one. It is a quite impressive document, and my advice is to break it in credits and go 1 credit at a time. That's the way. 6 pages or 2 pages, much easier than 322. Dedicate appropriate resources, especially the first years that I said will be the hardest. Take the time to understand what's required. And if you have any question, don't be afraid to ask. And there are many ways in which you can ask. The Australian STARS cohort with all the, Australasian cohort where all the Australasian people is involved, the broader international cohort, community as well, and directly to the ASIA staff. They are very responsive. And take advantage of the provided templates and various resources, including videos explaining some of the most common errors for credits, and the peer review process. So the peer review process is voluntary, but you gain points by doing it. And you are paired with another university that goes through your report as you go through theirs. And the amount of ideas and improvement that we got for our report was amazing. So it's a very, very recommendable process to go through. And that is all from me. I'm sure we've gone over time. And I'm sorry for that, but I'll pass it to the next person.
No, you're good. We're pretty much good for time, but so thank you. We're going to go to Suzanne next for the UQ perspective. Just make sure you grab your mute button there.
Okay, thanks for that tip. Okay, can everyone see my slides now? Can you guys see them?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect. Rightio. So hi everyone, I'm Suzanne Davis. I'm from the University of Queensland. We have been involved in STARS since the beginning of 2019. So when AXFIRM formed the first cohort of universities that were interested in getting involved, we started probably, I think, February or March of that year, and we met monthly for the first year as a group, and with ASHI learned heaps of information. It was probably towards the end of that year that we actually got traction with collecting data and getting the process really underway. So it did take a little bit of time to get our head around what was going on. And then it was probably around about 12 months all up to collect the data from when we started to when we actually submitted. So we submitted our first report at the end of 2020, and it was published in February of this year. So let me page down. I've only got a couple of slides here. Actually, can you see all the faces on the screen or just my slides? Hold on, let me just get rid of that. Okay, so for us, STARS is primarily a tool for organisational change and transformation. That is number one. So why bother to collect data and report on it? It's all about making change and improvement. So that is our main area of focus. We started on the process in 2019. At the same time, work commenced on developing the UQ's sustainability strategy, which is for the 2021 to 2025 period. So we were lucky from the point of view that we could align both of them. So our strategy for the next 5 years is based around the 4 pillars in STARS. So it's based around academics, just teaching and learning and research, all of the core business of the university. That's one pillar. The second pillar is the operational part. Third pillar is engagement. And the fourth pillar being planning and administration, which Carmen referred to before in one of her slides. So our strategy matches STARS. So we are using STARS as a tool to measure performance. But why would you measure performance? It's all about getting change in behaviour, change in systems, and improvement in sustainability performance, and primarily to embed sustainability in the organisation right across the board. So STARS is aligned with our strategic goals, or our strategic goals are aligned with STARS, vice versa, and the SDGs. So STARS has a document, and I just think it's alignment with stars, shining stars, something like that. Can't recall the name of it, but
Stars aligned.
Stars aligned, that's it. Thanks, Carmen. Which goes into a heap of detail about how each of the credits that you measure and report on in STARS and how they align with the SDGs. So we are using that. We're using STARS for our SDG reporting. So we are aligned with our strategic goals, with the SDGs, and we use that to look at where we're doing well, where we're not doing so well, and where we would like to improve, and prioritising that. So it is an integral part of improving sustainability performance by planning and setting priorities. The STARS system and the process has been really useful for getting buy-in around sustainability right across the organisation. So with senior executive, because there's information on how well we're doing and the areas that we want to improve on. With line management in particular, when we were collecting data from various parts of the university, it helps to recognise people that are working hard and areas that are doing really well in sustainability and are embedding sustainability in their day-to-day operations. So it's definitely beneficial for that. And to get buy-in of staff and students, just to know that this is sustainability, that this is important to the university, and we're reporting on it, and it's transparent. And I think that is very important, because it's not just transparent to within the university, to various departments and faculties, schools, research institutes. It's transparent to the public and to other universities, and that's very important. It's very beneficial. So the secondary part of STARS is that it's a tool for performance measurement. So for UQ, that's not the primary purpose, as I've mentioned. And I don't want to go over what's already been presented by Carmen and Corey, but I do have a screenshot here of our report. We're silver rated. We have a score of 61.37, and there's a little screenshot of just our academics and curriculum reporting. Just, I mean, you can all go and have a look at it online if you want. The benefit is you can go look at anyone's report, which is fantastic. So the tool itself defines sustainability, and what I mean by that is there's almost 80 areas that you report on, and each of those has a lot of detail about what sort of information is collected. So if you're looking at academic courses, for example, or purchasing electronic equipment, or sustainable finance, there is a lot of detail and information in the technical manual, but there's a lot of detail around what is considered sustainable. What are you reporting on? So that does help define for people in various areas what is important and what we're focusing on. So the process, STARS helps you identify what data you might want to look at. We do collect data outside of what's reported in STARS, so we do collect data in more detail than necessarily what we put in the report, because it might not be asked for in the report, but it's benefit for the university to know how we're going in those areas. We collect the data. Just the process of collecting the data and talking to various people about what we need starts a whole heap of conversations around sustainability itself, and that is very, very beneficial. And for people to know that we're doing it annually. So UQ is doing it, it's collecting all this data annually. Within the STARS system, for your rating to stay current, you need to submit every 3 years or it will expire. We probably won't be submitting every year, but we are collecting the data every year and we're reporting on it at least internally. We submitted end of last year and we published beginning of this year. We will resubmit again next year because we believe we'll be at a gold rating at that point. So that makes it important, useful to resubmit and change that rating. I've got a point here about there's almost 80 areas, but it's not all or nothing. And what I mean by that is you don't have to report on everything. So that's why I've got the snapshot of the curriculum there that you can see there's 8 sections under curriculum. We only chose to report on 6. And that's not necessarily because we're not doing anything in the other areas, but it was just too hard to get the data in our first report. So sometimes we might not have the systems or processes set up within the uni. In some areas, we just don't have them set up to collect that information. And in some instances, first time around, we just did not know where to collect the information from. And you could go down a rabbit hole collecting that and waiting to get that information from various areas, but that could hold up submitting the whole report. So we just thought, okay, we won't report on that this time round, but we will next time round. And I would think it is quite a bit of work to do all 80 areas, but you could just start off on reporting on operations and nothing else and not worry about reporting on academics. So it's really flexible and it's up to the institution. And as I mentioned before, it's helped us to identify our strengths and celebrate the contributions from various people in various areas of the university, and of course to identify where we want to improve. So my last slide is as a tool for learning. So we're using it to benchmark. So as mentioned before, all the reports are available publicly. So there's over 1,040 institutions. You can sort them by country. You can sort them by the rating that the university has. So there's a lot of information there. There's also a benchmarking tool. So you can run a report on a specific area, say on energy, procurement or whatever, and do comparison within the sector. And the beneficial part for us has been we have looked at universities that are doing better than us in specific areas, and then you can go into their reports and you can have a look at what information they have, what initiatives they have running, and then get in contact with people from those unis and find out more. So it is a fantastic learning tool. We did our peer review with University of Tasmania, and I would support what Carmen said earlier, that we learnt a lot from UTAS, and we learnt a lot about the reporting system together, so that was very beneficial. Learning within the sector and networking is probably the last thing I would say. So we've been in the ACTS network for over 2 years, and we're also participating in a mentoring scheme which is run through ASHE with Colorado State University. So I have a mentor over there who they have been using STARS for over a decade. I'm not sure the exact date off the top of my head. However, they were the first university to go platinum. So they were the first uni to get a platinum rating. So I have learned heaps from them as well in terms of the process and how to get the most out of it. And just generally, it's just very interesting to spend some time chatting to a university on the other side of the globe. There's so many things that we have in common. There's a few things different, but that's been very beneficial as well. So I think I'll wrap it up there, and I'm happy to take any questions in the chat or at the end.
There we go. I did it. I didn't unmute myself. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, we'll go, I think, do a bunch of questions right at the end of the session, because we're going to pass to Zoe next. Last but certainly not least, to hear from the University of Sydney perspective. So over to you, Zoe.
So Sydney comes last in a lot of things, so it's okay, we're fine. So my name is Zoe Morrison. I'm from the University of Sydney. Job title is Strategy Advisor Sustainability, but since we don't have a sustainability manager, kind of half play that role as well. We are just fresh off of resubmitting to STARS, and now we're just waiting on tenterhooks for our rating. So kind of today from me, it's kind of experience and what we've gone through as a first-time reporter and kind of what I'm still going through. I don't like to use the word PTSD, but there's a little bit of that. So we were quite unique in coming to STARS. So the University of Sydney, as I said, falls behind in everything. So we only developed our first sustainability strategy starting in 2019. And we published it mid-COVID pandemic in August 2020. So we were kind of lucky in one way. Was we pitched up to the ACTS conference in Dunedin. It was a holiday, to learn more about what we were getting ourselves into. And there was a presentation on STARS, and there was also the STARS representative at the conference as well. So we had a chance to really understand STARS in depth. And to understand its aims and how it works. And we came back to Sydney, mid bushfires, to a difference in how people were looking at the sustainability strategy. It'd gone from kind of, nice to have, to bushfires, we've got to have it. So we were able to incorporate STARS straight into our strategy and build our strategy in part around STARS and its aims and its reporting requirements. And the decision was made quite quickly to incorporate it, because we were sort of, well, what are the drivers of our sustainability strategy? How do we bring about cultural change? What's needed? And STARS helped answer that question for us. It was also adopted as our main ESG reporting framework for 3 key reasons. It aligns with the SDGs. So Sydney's funny. We don't have a definition for sustainability, because no matter which way we threw it, we excluded somebody, and I don't need that kind of pressure coming in my inbox. So we used the SDGs as our definition for sustainability, which so far is working extraordinarily well. It covered all the areas of our target. So in our strategy, we have quantitative and qualitative targets. STARS has quantitative and qualitative targets and data requirements too, so it's very helpful. And the last thing was kind of actually the most important thing, was it allowed non-quantitative stories to come to the surface. So STARS isn't just about data, though that rigor is really important to us. It's also about, okay, well, what have we done? And it gave us an opportunity to reset our current state and to have a look at how we'd gone from, March 2019, when we kind of went, we don't do anything in sustainability, to we started this process in February 2020, and it was like, oh, actually we do stuff, hold on. So we kind of went through that whole journey, which is overwhelming when it's just you going through the journey on your own. It also gave our key stakeholders in the faculties, in our centralized areas and in the executive, something tangible to understand, because there was a heck of a lot of ambiguity as we developed our sustainability strategy, because we let our community develop it. That's 75,000 voices, souls. So it gave us something concrete. And for me, who's a control freak, that was very helpful as we move through the development of the strategy. And lastly, as both Suzanne, Corey, and Carmen have said, it's transparent. Yeah, there's nothing hiding. So using all of that information, we set a target of getting a STARS rating of gold. We're not quite as ambitious as UTAS, by 2025. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're at least some of the way there by the time our report comes out. So the first thing it enabled us to do was develop this reporting framework in an evidence-based industry. This is really important. So we took all the STARS questions. We didn't use the template STARS gave us, because why make things easy on ourselves? And we developed this framework of STARS questions because we knew we weren't actually just creating a STARS framework, we were creating a reporting framework. And it allowed us to identify the known and unknown data that we'd already surfaced when we'd done the strategy development, where its sources were, and importantly, something you need to think about. What are you comfortable making public? because it is public, and the uni sometimes struggles with that. Well, Sydney does. We discovered that it also touches literally every part of the university. I don't think there wasn't an area of the uni I didn't speak to, and everybody found this quite amazing because it's so encompassing. That's why when Suzanne says there's 80 areas, but it's not all or nothing. Pick something, pick an area of the university that's doing sustainability well and report on it. For us, it's 3 key portfolios that I work with. So that's VP operations. So that's our HR, procurement, etc., the stuff that makes the institution tick. The DVC education and the DVC research. We already have existing relationships through the strategy development. All of the key portfolio areas sit on our STICO for the sustainability strategy. And what we didn't know, that 25%, well, that took most of the time to find out. We also brought the STARS information together with our other ESG reporting, which I'll show you in the other slide, to identify where the synergies are. So Suzanne has already brought up that THE and STARS align. It aligns with a lot, as we discovered when we moved through, which makes it go from sort of requiring 2,000 pieces of data to only requiring about 1,200 pieces of data for my entire ESG reporting framework. And from that, we created an artifact for, say, if I win the lottery or I transition out of sustainability, for the next user to take up, and it won't be anywhere near as difficult for them. That's really important to us. And that is particularly important for Sydney because at the moment, sustainability strategy sits in the strategy portfolio, but it will transition into an office of its own in the coming years. I might not necessarily be a part of that. So that was really, really important to me because I don't want anybody else to go through what I went through. So timelines, which for some people are quite important. It took 3 months for us to design our framework. It took 7 months, and I'll say that as sort of hopeful, maybe a little bit longer to gather all the data and then regather it, because as everybody who's ever done this will tell you, just because you ask for the data once doesn't mean that's the person that actually holds the data, and you end up having to go through a couple of rabbit holes to find it. Tidy it up and submit it took another 3 months because I had another project that came online, and now we're in the stage of streamlining our data gathering. So what's next for us? Benefits, which is kind of important when you spend nearly a year of your life living in STARS. As I said before, stakeholders actually understand what you're trying to do in sustainability, which is also very helpful when you're trying to get your budget agreed. It's very tangible progress. So because we've incorporated it into our strategy around our targets, I can actually see at any given point where we are in either having initiatives for that area or reaching the target or where the contributions are. And using STARS in that way has been very, very helpful to me. It stops people going off and doing their own thing. Sydney is notorious for people just doing what they want. So we've actually created a single source of, oh, you want to report on sustainability? That's cool. We've got a metric for that. Can contribute to our STARS. It's helped us to identify gaps and opportunities, kind of like Corey's graph. We kind of had a look at what we haven't reported on and what we scored low in and what we scored really well in. More importantly, though, it identified the opportunities. So for an example of that is, as we were doing STARS, we were in the middle of developing our new sustainable investments portfolio framework. And we used STARS and the missing points to design that framework, which was very helpful because nobody could agree on what we should do. It also identified a new correlation, a new collaboration between ICT and procurement around trying to buy more sustainable ICT equipment and also start to refurbish and recycle our IT. That's a component in STARS. Talking, so much talking. So as everybody's said, once you get started on this, you can't shut people up. It opened up so many conversations and areas. Like I went to WHS and I said, hey, I'm doing the sustainability reporting. I need this information from you. And they went, we're not sustainability? I was like, let me introduce you to SDG3, health and well-being. That's where you fall in. And so they gave us all this information. And now I get phone calls going, hey, look, we're doing some WHS literacy. Can we combine that with sustainability and let's get a program going? Which is for me really great because I don't always have the capacity to come up with all the ideas. And it's also led to discussions to empower people, particularly in our faculty areas, about what they can do. They point to STARS and they go to a faculty general manager, look, it's in STARS, we can do it. And off they go and do it, particularly around the living lab stuff for students. And then lessons learned, really important one. I had another word in here, which was take time off, but give yourself time. As people have mentioned, there's no limit on how long you can take or how much you have to submit. I remember Corey turning around going, calm down, just submit in operations, you'll be all right. Turns out he was right, and we submitted a lot more than that. But it was great because that was the kind of icebreaker of looking at that technical manual going, so take a bit, work on it, take a bit, work on the next bit. The technical manual is huge, as Suzanne mentioned. It's really intimidating at 285 pages. So don't digest it in one go. I used it as an insomniac reliever, but that was a really bad idea. Take each part as you go along in the reporting, and just read that part as you do it. Don't underestimate the amount of work involved. Like I said, it's taken us a year, and I remember coming to this group and saying, I'll get this done in 6 months. Oh dear. You will spend a lot of time chasing data, but it also opens you up to how much your university does and the data that it holds, and that can be quite exhilarating for some people. Executive support is key. They will help you get the data that you're chasing, but they'll also inspire their areas to take opportunities once they arise and empower them to run off and do stuff on their own while aligning with STARS. And then lastly, I would not be submitting STARS. I think I'd be in a hole hiding somewhere with my double vaccination if it wasn't for Suzanne, Corey, Carmen, and Monica at ASHI, because the community is so giving. There is no such thing as a stupid question, as Suzanne, Corey, and Carmen will attest to, because I asked a lot of them. It's brilliant. The support is there. The motivation to keep going comes from this group, and the ASHI community as a whole as well contributed so heavily to me actually being able to push through and get our STARS reporting done. And if we could share rankings and ratings, I would give you hours, but I think you've done better than we have. So I want to give you guys, fellow participants, a big hands for helping with that, because we wouldn't get it done. And then what's next for us? I'm taking a break because I've got annual reporting to do now. God, it's so much reporting. We're also starting to design and empower people to run those opportunities on their own. We're starting to develop our dashboard system. First attempt at bringing all the university's data into one source. What could go wrong? But basically for our 6 key reporting, which is STARS, THE, EcoVadis, which is based on procurement, the UN Global Compact, our annual sustainability report, and something we call the SDG progress report, which is where every year we report on how we're contributing to the SDGs. We will not be submitting STARS in 2022 because I will resign from my job if I have to. So we're going to do it in 2023 instead, when hopefully I've recovered and I'm ready to do it again. And then that's it. I'm open for questions and everything else.
Thanks so much, Zoe. I think there's a few questions that have come through. The one I'd like to address, I mean, you've all kind of touched on this, and it's around how much time it's taken for you to compile the information around data, and it's a bit of a how long's a piece of string type question, I think. And Amanda's also asked as part of that, how many credits did you not find any information source for? So have you clocked hours out of curiosity, or is it? Yeah, no, Zoe?
I was told to clock hours when I started the STARS reporting, because we needed to identify if we needed a separate reporting resource. We do. So I spent in excess of 100 hours in total, but that's mainly because I'm on my own and we were starting from scratch, literally. But I think we could probably I could have done it a lot less if I'd actually read the technical manual before I started looking for data. So probably around 80.
Any guesstimations from Suzanne? You've unmuted.
Yeah, I would say I've spent more time than that, but I would qualify it with some of that time is collecting data, and some of that time is future focused on how we are going to improve the performance and improve data collection. And that's really the focus now also. So yeah, I would maybe on average 1 day a week as a guess, but I think now I'd be doing that for sure, maybe even a touch more, because the focus it's not on data. It's about having conversations with multiple groups about how to improve performance and thus get the data.
I have no idea, to be completely honest. I was doing so many things at the same time that I have no clue. But what I'm gonna say is that don't underestimate the waiting for data. That's a big part of it. And also I'm gonna say that now that everybody knows about stars, I get people coming to me to give me information, as you know, both Susan and so I have the same experience. So just acknowledging that the first year is hard, the first reporting, but I know it will be so much easier from now on. That's really encouraging.
And I'll add just on that is, focus in on your first time with your natural allies, people you know where the data is, people who will be excited to help you, that understand their part in sustainability. Get that first, because that itself still will take a while. And if you have resistance, just don't worry about it. Just go, lower it, low priority, and let's get something submitted, because what that does is it creates a challenge for those other areas. For example, we didn't do a lot of reporting in academics because the mapping was going to be a huge effort, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then it was a glaring gap in the reporting up to our university executive team to say, well, surely we have that data. We have systems that get that. So then we were able to just say, yep, this is what we need from you in that area. Sort of had the onus put on them by the executive rather than us trying to push them.
Great, thank you. Another question, Theodore's asked around how exactly did participation in STARS help to bring about cultural change in the university? So do you think you've seen this yet? Is this happening?
Happy to jump in there. So for us, it's that sense of, and Zoe touched on in particular, that people had an idea, once you were able to show them the holistic approach that STARS is, they saw where they fit in, whereas before they were like, well, what I do isn't sustainability. And in fact, yes, it is. This is about just getting people on board, having them understand their ownership component of a sustainable university, and saying, this is how it fits into the big picture. You don't have to do all this. This is your part. And, we want to know what you're doing and what can we help you do to do that differently and better. And so what that does is it gets people talking about sustainability. And because of that, we now have this concept called sustainability mission integration at our university, which the Vice Chancellor said, this is something everybody needs to work on. We want a module developed that's a training induction module. We want everybody contributing to this. We want everybody to understand. We redid our sustainability policy all around it, principles based, to help people understand their part in the sustainability journey. So to us, it was a massive step up using STARS.
I think also just building on that, just around ownership and people thinking sustainability is around operational parts of the university, where it's not. That's only like one part of the 4 pillars that you report on. So it's really, like getting information on research and how much of our researchers are in sustainability, how many of our teaching and learning courses are sustainability focused or sustainability inclusive, and tagging that, just having the conversations with people in teaching and learning. That is like what Corey said, people might think, oh, that's not sustainability. Well, actually it is. And we had exactly the same experience with health, safety and wellness, and around, that people think, oh, that's not sustainability. Well, hold on, there's a lot of social sustainability. Pay, like from HR, are we paying the living wage, all that sort of thing, that is sustainability. So it broadens the conversations, and it recognises the areas that are doing really well, and they are like, there's more, like people get on board and they appreciate being recognised for the work they're doing in that space. It's very, very rewarding to be able to recognise that.
Just on top of what both Corey and Suzanne have said, so an example would be, we've always known we wanted to do a living lab. And I remember sitting in meetings pushing for, well, it can't just be for staff and it can't just be for academics, it needs to be for students. Oh, that's not what a living lab is. And then STARS come along, guess what their definition for living lab is? It's not academics and it's not staff, it's students. So guess what? Our living lab protocols now involve students. So that's a real kind of relevance of how it's changing culture, and students We've always said it would be about student experience, but people were concentrating on the curriculum space. We've used STARS to open that out into non-curricular activities. And that for Sydney, who's stuck in their ways, is amazing. And that's a cultural shift just in the way we think about it. So
we've got time for one last question just before we wrap up. So the last one's, does STARS help with the university ranking indicators, and was that part of anyone's decision to start STARS? And also, can it be done for universities outside of Australia? I mean, the STARS cohort that we have represented today is through our ACTS membership, but STARS, I believe, is open to any institution globally. I mean, you guys can, yeah.
Yes, it does. As Carmen talked about, there's an overlap with the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking. Some of the data sets are similar enough that you can use the data in both ways. It was not a decision for us. Ours was about becoming a sustainable university, and our new vice chancellor in particular, is not overly fussed with any rankings. And actually, I don't even talk about the rankings other than we need to participate in them. And that's not why we're doing STARS though, but it does align to a certain extent. So we do help the rankings people with our information.
Sydney's highly aligned to rankings, you might have guessed, because we crow about it all the time. I'm moving to UTAS. It kind of was a bit of a decision. So when we were looking at ranking, everybody's like, oh, THE, that can be our sustainability. I was like, no, because it's got no rigor to it. So STARS was it was a rating rather than a ranking, and that was a decision that pushed it kind of over the line for us. Yes, it can be done for universities outside Australia. Somebody I forgot to thank, Massey University in New Zealand, heads up to Palmerston, North Palmerston. They did our external auditing, and they are working on their STARS as well. And they were amazing. They said they learned a lot during the auditing process. I'll agree we learned a lot from the auditing process at Sydney. So other universities and New Zealand universities will probably sweep all of us Aussies under the table because you have a progressive government. But I think definitely every university on the call should get involved.
Okay. Ooh. No, Suzanne?
I was just going to say one very short thing is it wasn't a factor for us. We chose to do STARS to improve sustainability performance, not as a ranking, not so interested in ranking, very interested in a rating, and just find STARS as a very collaborative process. And like people have already said, it's the community. It's set up to support one another. It's not a race. I mean, we're all trying to improve global sustainability. It doesn't really matter who does it. So yeah, that's a very big plus for STARS.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, I'll wrap up. We're right on the hour now, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's joined us on the call today, as well as Corey, Carmen, Suzanne and Zoe for sharing their experiences with STARS. If you'd like to learn more or get involved with the cohort, I will circulate contact details after the meeting today of everybody that's registered. As I said, we'll have this available as a recording, so feel free to share that around if you need to. We'll have it available on the ACTS website as well. So that's it from us today. Thank you so much again. I hope everybody's staying safe and well wherever you're joining in from, and I look forward to seeing you at the next ACTS event, whatever it might be. We've got lots coming up, so thanks everyone. No doubt see you soon. Bye.